All right, so ours is office and medical space, our buildings. So a lot of our focus is very similar to what Sharif and what you guys are doing with the multiplexes. So we're looking at how do we maximize the building's uses in addition to office. So one of the first ones we looked at was reconfiguring the first floor for some retail. So you have some smaller stores, maybe some larger stores, potentially food, restaurants down there, so that you have office building and space at the top, but then you have the amenities below. Seems like this is a pretty common trend, which is cell towers on the roof. I never would have thought of this before, but it looks like I should start putting some cell towers on my single family home too. And then from, this is what we mentioned before, changing the use a little bit, putting in from offices, potentially looking at with, since we had medical buildings as well, we're talking about putting similar type businesses. So when we're talking about medical, maybe dental, putting in drugstores or pharmacies within that same vicinity or in the same building, kind of co-occupying it. And then this I talked a little bit about, which is food and restaurant space. You know, you can kind of talk to a restaurant and say, hey, we're going to have, 500 employees above you. That's instantly potential for customers. And then one other thing too is energy, so being green and efficient. You can put solar panel, potentially negotiate with the energy company regarding power and selling it back potentially, if you can negotiate that. Also, we talked about lobbies, like having maybe like a ballroom or like an auditorium, being able to rent the space for weddings, events on the weekends. So kind of really similar vein, I think, looking at across the room what we have. One other thing we thought, we're like,
Did we lose the mic there?
Put in some art. So art in the lobby. It's always extra space. It makes it look nice. You can get a little additional income there.
Yeah, it's on concession.
And then for locations, so we kind of talked about from a strategy perspective, what kind of locations do we want to look for? So medical and those type of buildings, we figure being close to hospitals, assisted living makes a lot of sense. Potentially also geographics, like where is the climate warm? Maybe states like Florida, areas where there's a lot of older population moving in. Also from an offices perspective, we think the transit corridors make a lot of sense, being near either train stations or mass transit areas. And then some potential options to reconfiguring and rehabbing downtown spaces, creating like office loft type spaces where you have offices below and you could potentially have some living spaces above. Let's see. All right, last page. So also looking at co-working spaces. So can we leverage buildings, potentially if you have vacancy, you can use it for mixed use, like the Regus, like the WeWork spaces. Can we rent out some of that excess space as well? And then below, you have things like mailbox services that you can include in the lobby, package and parcel services potentially, just things that you potentially would need within an office space without having to leave that building. And then parking. So during non-normal work hours, you could potentially rent out or charge for the parking, if you're like in a downtown area. That should be free. It should be free, right? No, I'm just kidding. And then last one is one of the things from a strategy perspective is we'd want to go in and make sure we're upgrading the buildings so that it minimizes potential costs for maintenance in the future.
Very
That's
good.
about it.
Retrofitting, they've been an awesome job. Give them a round of applause. So let me see. How about for office buildings also? How about if we add this? Did you say daycare? But you didn't write it? See, telepathically we communicated. Don't you like this? Okay, so daycare, it always works for, business people, they have their kids, they would love to have the kids nearby. And did you put a gym? Gym? I was reading the other day, what company has the most advanced gym in a office ever? Microsoft, actually, they said. Maybe Google, you're right. But the article I read was a few years back. Maybe it's Google, but they say Microsoft is just like state of the art, like unheard of, most unbelievable workout gym ever. It's funny, huh? Because Bill Gates doesn't look like the kind of guy who lifts weights to me. But did you put solar? Solar? Ah, you put it. My apologies. And I like the idea of the green building. Did you put vending machines? No? Vending machines, very good for office buildings and stuff. Vending machines, because not only does it help those that are in the building, but those coming to visit for the meetings, to see this and that, vending machines. How about also paid parking? Did you mention that? Okay. You can do paid parking in an apartment building, but storage, the office building is possible.
Acupuncture, yoga.
So we're going to put, what do we call this, holistic services? Holistic.
That was recently cut at my company.
Oh, that was cut? Oh. Yeah, holistic services, that's pretty good. And did you talk about Wi-Fi for the whole building? Like always doing internet stuff? Like I was in a building, where was that building? Pleasanton, I think. And I walk in and I see a little place and says computer backup services. And they were servicing the 3 buildings. There's 3 huge office buildings, computer backup services. So I walked in and I said, do you really get a lot of business? He said, I'll be amazed. People like click, erase, and we have to restore whatever in the hard drive. And we said, we do fine. So, okay, very good stuff. Loved it.